Okay, we are very excited as PPC Greater Alberta for our special guest tonight. He is a former Conservative MP and Cabinet Minister in Stephen Harper's government, formed the PPC in 2018 after realizing that the Conservative Party of Canada was too intellectually and morally corrupt to reform, having abandoned conservative principles long ago. Ladies and gentlemen, the leader of the People's Party of Canada, Maxine Bernier.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. So first, I must say, you are giving us your time tonight to be with us. So my goal tonight, I want to be able to answer to all your questions. I want to have a discussion with you. And I want you, after that evening, to be able to be out there and promote our values and our platform and our ideas for a better country. So let's start from the beginning. Why? Why we decided to create the People's Party of Canada. Why I said 7 years ago that I'm leaving the Conservative Party of Canada because that party is morally and intellectually corrupt. I said that after 15 months after the leadership contest for the Conservative Party of Canada, where I didn't win with 49% of the vote. I tried to work with Andrew Scheer at that time, the leader elected, for 15 months. I wanted to take some of our ideas because they were very popular. I had 49% of the vote. So I was able to have a discussion with him, a private discussion, that it's not private anymore. And I did ask him. So we will have an election in 2019. We were at the end of 2018. I said, are you taking some of our ideas, my ideas, during the leadership contest to put that in your platform for the next electoral campaign? And I must admit, he was very honest. He told me, no, Maxime, we won't take any of your ideas. I was not happy with the answer. I said, why? 49% of our members agree with our ideas. And they said, Maxime, because we did polling and focus group, and your ideas are not popular with the general population. And my goal is to be prime minister. So I won't take any of your ideas. So that's why I said this party is not conservative anymore. They're just conservative in name. They don't have the courage to speak about conservative ideas when the conservative ideas are not that popular. So they are following the public opinion that has been manipulated by the leftist media and the leftist politicians. So that's why I resigned and I said this party, the Conservative Party of Canada, is morally and intellectually corrupt because they're not speaking about conservative ideas. So by doing that, they're doing a lot of credibility to the leftist narrative. And I can tell you, that was the best decision in my political life. Creating that party based on what I was saying during the leadership contest. So, and we believe in 4 principles: individual freedom, personal responsibility, respect, and fairness. People are asking me, Maxime, during COVID-19, the hysteria of COVID and the draconian measures, you were out there. Yes, I was out there. So why? Why, you had the courage to be out there with us, with Roger and all the eminent doctors. I was out there because it's part of our principles. One of our principles in our platform, individual freedom and personal responsibility. that was normal for us to fight for freedom of choice with informed consent. So we did that together, and we were able to build a movement and to fight these draconian measures. So the People's Party is a populist, free market political party that is there. And like Adrienne said, we are doing politics differently. I was elected for 13 years in both. I'm not a professional politician or a career politician. I did work in the private sector for 19 years in the financial sector before being in politics in 2006. Contrary to Pierre Poilievre, he never had a real boss. He was elected at 24 years old, and so he's still in politics. But when I decided to jump into politics in 2006, that was for having a smaller government that will respect our freedoms. When you have a smaller government, you have more freedom. So we created that party, and we had our first election in 2019. Yes, we had only 1.6% of the vote, but we were able to almost triple our score to 5% in 2021. But when I'm saying that we are doing politics differently, because we have a vision for this country, a strong vision. And we think that the more we speak about our vision, the more support we will have. And we know that if one of our ideas is not that popular today, we won't stop to speak about it. We will speak about it more often with passion and conviction, knowing that more people will be on our side. So we don't follow the public opinion polls. We are following our convictions. So Poilievre and the Conservatives are doing the opposite. If you look at their financial statement that are public on the website of Elections Canada, last year, 2023, in 2023, they did spend $1.5 million in focus group and survey and polling. They want to know what you think today. And they will tell you what you think. But not only that, they want to know which word will be the best to convince you. Like Poilievre. I said when we created the party, this is a common sense political party with common sense policies. Poilievre did a couple, and we didn't do any survey. If you look at our financial statement, we don't spend any money, what a cent, on survey or focus group. We don't believe in that. We think that we have the best vision for this country, and we think that you are intelligent, and we are having a discussion with you. We'll be able to convince you to support us. So we didn't spend any money, and we won't spend any money on focus group. But not only they want to know what you want to hear, but which word to use, like common sense. So Poilievre did a lot of polling and survey on common sense, and it's great because when Poilievre is telling you, I have a common sense policy on immigration. Okay, if you want fewer immigrants, that's your common sense, so you agree with that. If your own common sense is for more immigration, you agree with that. That's not dangerous. So that's why he's speaking with slogan. Fix the budget. Everybody wants to fix the budget, but how? Like O'Toole said during the next election, I will balance the budget in 5 years, and he was asking your support to have a mandate of 4 years. So he was saying like Trudeau, I won't balance the budget. So Poilievre now is saying, I will fix the budget. The next question is, are you serious? Are you ready to balance the budget in 1 year by cutting foreign aid, cutting subsidies to big businesses, and all that? On our platform, it's all in details. We can balance the budget in 1 year and after that, growing taxes. Axe the tax. That's the next one. Axe, don't forget, in the beginning, it was axe the carbon tax. That was the slogan in the beginning. But now people agree with that. And so he wanted people to know that all taxes, axe all taxes. So now the slogan changed for axe the tax. So for you, it can be the carbon tax if you don't like the carbon tax, or the gas tax if you don't like the gas. So axe the tax. That was very popular. And he wanted to have an election, and he still wants to have an election on axe the tax. That must be the election. But you know, now bad news for Poilievre. Both liberal candidates said that they will axe the carbon tax also. So you cannot have an election on axe the tax. We want an election on a referendum on immigration. That's more important. Poilievre is speaking about axe the tax when our house is in fires. So the house is in fire and he's cutting the grass. We need to fix that. Yes, immigration. I'm not anti-immigrants. It's not fair for them. They're coming here in our country. We are telling them, you can have a job in Canada. You'll have a nice opportunity to be prosperous. But that's not the case. There's no job for Canadians. There's no job for them. We are paying for them to stay in an hotel. They don't want to stay in an hotel downtown Montreal. And we are giving a lot of money. And so we are telling them, you can come here, but it's not important if you don't speak English or if you don't speak French. How can you integrate into our society if you don't speak English or French? So that's why we have ghettos in Burnaby, BC, in Brandon, Ontario. If you go there, you're going to see. I think they need a Bill 101 to protect English. We want them to be part of our society. We want them to come here and to be prosperous. But right now, we need to stop, a pause, a moratorium to fix all the problems. We don't have good services with health care. You know, you have waiting lists for surgeries. That's not efficient. We cannot buy, like Jason said, a house. The young couple cannot buy a house. It's too expensive. And an apartment downtown Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver, it's expensive. So Poilievre, the answer is, oh, we're going to build more houses. But actually, we built last year about 250,000 houses. We need to build 700,000 houses a year just to meet the demand. So it will be impossible. The solution is there. Supply and demand. Cut the demand, cut the immigration, have the moratorium. That will help the housing crisis. But, you know, the moratorium also, it's important for us, not only for the economy. We know that our standard of living is going down because of mass immigration. When you have more people in the country, the economy will grow. The GDP will grow. But what is happening right now? The economy is growing, but we have so many people coming to our country that the GDP per capita is going down. So what that means, the economic pie is growing, but our piece of the pie is smaller. Your standard of living did not increase for the last 10 years. Our purchasing power is going down. So yes, mass immigration is having an impact on our standard of living. But not only that, on our society. When you have people who are coming here who don't share our values, because all culture are not equal. That's the logic of their multiculturalism. They think that all culture is equal, so everybody can come in UK, in France, in Canada. multiculturalism is a failure. It is not working. So they are coming here, they don't share, some of them don't share our values, and we are telling them, don't integrate into our society. We will promote and give subsidies to you to celebrate your culture. For example, I'd like to use that one, it's easy to understand. The federal government is giving subsidies to Chinese community to celebrate the Chinese New Year. I don't have anything about the Chinese New Year or year of the fish, or I don't know. I don't mind, I don't know, good for them. But if they want to celebrate that, the federal government must not give money for that. They must use their own money to celebrate their culture of origin. They're not doing that. The federal government must give money to celebrate our culture, our history. They're not doing that. And so you have Pierre Poilievre out there who is pandering, and I call him Pandering Pierre. And that's not a slogan, that's a reality. Every weekend he has a new costume. And he's pandering. He's pandering to ethnic communities. Why? I told you that Pierre Poilievre is following the survey and the polling. But you can ask me, Maxime, on immigration, I think there's almost 60% of the population, including our immigrants, who are saying enough is enough. Why Poilievre is not like you and is not saying a moratorium on immigration if he's following the polls? He's not doing that because he's doing polling in different ridings. And for him to have a majority, it would be important to have ridings where there's a huge majority of immigrants. And so that's why he is pandering to them, and they want to have more people and reunification of family. So he is doing identity politics, racial politics. I'm not doing that. Actually, I was with a Chinese lady in Vancouver a couple of years ago, and she said to me, I'm proud to be a Chinese Canadian. And that's, you can see the video on YouTube. And we had a discussion, somebody was filming. She said, Maxime, I'm proud to be a Chinese Canadian. I looked at her and I said, you're not a Chinese Canadian, you're a Canadian. I don't want to know from which country you're coming from. When you're here and you are Canadians, you are Canadians. But for these establishment politicians, they are pandering. Chinese Canadian, Indian, Hindu Canadians, and all that. No, you won't see me doing politics in a church. You won't see me, I'm a Catholic, but I won't do politics in a church. I won't do politics in a temple. I won't, because religions and politics must be separate. That must be. But they're doing that. They try to appeal to their religion. They try to appeal to their ethnicity. And that's the difference. For me, we are welcoming everybody who want to be Canadians. But now we cannot do that for a couple of years. We need to have that moratorium. And after that, we'll open our door to immigrants like we did in the past. But we must understand that it is a privilege to be Canadian. It is not a right, it is a privilege. Now you have Poilievre and Trudeau. What they're doing, it's immoral. They are putting the interest of foreigners, fake refugees, fake students, before the interest of Canadians. They are doing that. Like you said, Jason, what they're doing now, you don't respect our legislation, you come here to be a student, and usually we never had problems with that. After, when you have your diploma, you go back to your country. But now they want to stay here, and they think that they have the right to stay here. And Trudeau and Poilievre are saying, yeah, you don't respect our law, but we'll give you a nice gift. We'll give you the permanent residency. That's not fair. That's illegal. They don't respect the legislation. They don't want to go back to their country of origin. We had a contract with them. You can come here to study, but after that, you must go back. So that's why we want to deport these illegals. That's the definition of an illegal person in our country. Same thing for the temporary foreign workers. You come here for a couple of months, but after that, you must go back to your country. From the question, how many illegals do we have in Canada? You know, we don't know. It's between 25,000 and 500,000. We don't know the number. We need to know the number. We need to know who they are, and we need to know where they are. We need to put the resources there to find that, and after that, to be able to deport them. So we need to be serious about that. And every country has the right to do that. Why we want to preserve our culture? Because we love this country. And Canada is very different. You are going to tell me, Maxime, there's more than one culture in Canada. Yes, you're right. The culture in Quebec is very different than the culture here in Alberta. The culture in Nova Scotia is different than the culture in BC. That's our country. That's unique. We are unique in the world. So we need to preserve that. That's why we need a smaller government in Ottawa that won't interfere, but will let provinces to promote the culture of their province. We are not doing that right now. And I know in France and in UK, now you have no-go zone over there. It's too dangerous to go there. We don't want that. When we questioned immigration in 2019, journalists and my political opponents were saying I'm a racist because we wanted fewer immigrants at that time. We said a maximum of 150,000 a year. We were right. We didn't do that. And now look the mess. We didn't do that. Now we need to fix that mess and we need to have that moratorium. But it would be very difficult for my opponents right now to say that I'm a racist when 60% of the population said enough is enough. So that's the People's Party. We are speaking about ideas that may not be that popular today, but we know they will become popular. Like during COVID-19, we were supposed to be, crazy and all, anti-vax and all that, but we were right. The freedom fighters were right at that time, and now we know. We said that the vaccine was not safe and effective. We were right. We have the proof. So I wanted to use these examples to tell you what is the People's Party. And our name, the People's Party. We are the party for Canadians, and we are putting our country first. How can we do that? By withdraw from the World Health Organization. Actually, I really like what is happening in the US right now. Because if you look at what Trump is doing, President Trump is doing, that's our platform. Platform. I said that. I said there's only 2 sectors in 2019. And I had a discussion a month ago or 2 months ago with Billboard Chris. You know Billboard Chris? And I thanked him for what he was doing and all that. I said, Billboard, you're doing a good job, and I'm very happy. It's because of you that now it's more popular. And he looked at me, and he said, no, Maxine, you spoke on that issues before me. I said, oh, yeah. And we looked, he said, yeah, you spoke on that issues 3 months before me. So, yes, we have that vision. And at that time, I learned that there's only 2 sexes. So for me, saying that was evident, But for other politicians, it is not evident right now. But that being said, what Trump is doing, that's helping us in Canada. I will tell you why. The mainstream media, we had a question about that. The mainstream media is ignoring us. They don't want to speak about us, the PPC. They know that if we have more visibility, we'll grow faster. They don't want that. They're, leftist activists. They're not journalists. So, but now they have to speak about what is happening in the US. And Trump, and they have to speak about our ideas. DEI, oh, Trump, no more DEI, yeah. Meritocracy. I said that. So what they're doing by speaking about what Trump is doing in the US, they're speaking about our ideas without saying that it is us in Canada who is promoting that. But that will help us. So Trump is doing a good job, and Trump will be the start of a revolution, a peaceful revolution in Western countries. That's starting with Trump, and that revolution, Trump won't be able to do everything in 4 years. That will be at least a 10, 15 years revolution in Europe, in UK, in France, in Germany, and here in Canada, in Argentina, everywhere. So what he's doing is great. But also, our journalists here, Trump said something, and that's the end of the world. 51st state. Yeah, so Trump is speaking about that. But you need to answer Trump and speaking the same language. And if I can have a discussion with Trump about, annexion and the 51st state, I will have a nice discussion and he will be able to understand me with my accent. I'll tell him, President Trump, you know that in Canada, there's 40 million people. Yeah, I know that. Like in California. Do you know that in Canada, they did a poll just before your election, and 65% of Canadians said that they would have voted for Harris and the Democrat. So, President Trump, do you want another California that will always vote Democrats? He's having fun. He's teasing us and having fun with that. But we must be serious also. And our politician, and Polyev also, today, I was listening to an interview that Polyev did in Halifax. Very interesting interview, 8 minutes. It's very rare that Polyev will give an interview, 8 minutes, with a journalist. He was speaking like me. He was not speaking with slogan. So that's very rare, because Polyev is wise and a good communicator. Always little slogan and that's it. And he doesn't want to answer other questions that can be controversial. But today he sat down with a journalist in Halifax. And 2 great questions. I'll go back with Trump, but the first one was, in Halifax, as you know, Halifax is a poor province, like Quebec. They receive equalization money. And you here in Alberta, you're fed up with that. And you're right. And I said we must radically reduce the equalization payments. I'm the only one who's saying that. I'm saying that in English and in French and in Quebec. Do you know that Quebec received equalization payments since the creation of that program in 1957? Do you think that Quebecers think that they're poor? No. They know that they're not poor. We are poor and we receive equalization because of that formula. And only 6 economists understand the formula in Canada. But what you must know, it's all the incomes that the federal government is receiving from the oil and gas industry that is part of the formula. And all the money that the federal government receives in taxes for the hydroelectricity, it is not in the formula. So because of that, Quebec is a poor province. So we need to change that. We need to reduce drastically and equalization payments. That will give the right incentive to provinces like Quebec to develop their own natural resources. There's a lot of natural resources, shale gas in Quebec and in New Brunswick and in Nova Scotia. But if they're doing that right now, they won't have equalization money. So they're lazy. They want to have that money without developing their own natural resources. The solution is to reduce that drastically. So that interview in Halifax, the premier in Halifax said, you know, we are a poor province. We'll do everything here in Halifax to be richer, and that would be great if we don't receive equalization payments. I agree with that. I said personally in Quebec that I'm not proud to be a Quebecer when we receive equalization payment. We must not receive that. We are a rich province. So the premier said something like that. That was great. So the journalist, back to that interview, the journalist said to Poliev today, are you ready to reduce the equalization payment? Because what our premier just said, Poliev said, no, I won't cut equalization payment. He said that. So he doesn't want to touch that because he's taking your vote here out west for granted. That's what he's doing. And by doing that, that's very dangerous for the unity of our country. You're mad, you're frustrated, and you have a right to be mad and frustrated. So you had Harper, that was Prime Minister for 9 years, coming from here, Alberta, from Calgary. What is the legacy of Stephen Harper after 9 years? One. He was able to dismantle the wheat board. That's it. He didn't work on the equalization. Actually, he did the opposite. I was at the table, around the cabinet table, when the cabinet decided to do that. Harper changed the equalization formula to be more generous to Quebec, to buy votes in Quebec. I was there, around the table, when I didn't win my debate. I didn't win the argument. That's Harper. Nothing for you, and he was coming from Western Canada. Poliev is doing the same. He's taking you for granted. He won't speak about equalization. He said publicly that he won't cut equalization payment. He won't withdraw from the Paris Accord. Yes, he will axe the tax like the Cornet and Freeland, but he will give money to the huge green industry to try to achieve the Paris Accord target. So he's afraid of that and other issues that are very important for you out west. So what he said in that interview about Trump, you know, Trump is very dangerous for us because he will impose tariffs. 25% tariff, that's dangerous. Yeah. But first, can we just relax, just a little bit, and wait and see? We know Trump. He's having fun right now. Every country will have tariffs. Oh. And the deal, the free trade deal that we have with the US, Mexico, and Canada, Trump said today or a couple of days ago, it's a bad deal. A very bad deal. But I'm going to say to Trump, you're the one who negotiated that deal when you were president of the US. So now you don't like the deal that you signed, that you negotiate? He's just laughing and having fun. He knows that we have a good deal, but he's mad at us because we don't protect our borders, we don't invest in our defense, and we are, you know, the last 3 years, the American authority stopped at their borders 400 terror suspects. 400. 80% of them were coming from Canada. And last year, they arrested at their border 200,000 illegals who were crossing from Canada to the US. They're fed up with that, and I understand. So if you want to have a good deal with Trump, be serious and fix the border, moratorium on immigration, deport the illegals, and then reinvest in our defense. But now, if you want to show that you're Captain Canada and you're fighting for the country, you're going to impose, also tariff. Like Polyev said in that interview, the journalist asked, what do you think if Trump is imposing tariff? What are you going to do? Retaliation measures? Yes. And the journalist said, $1 for $1. And Polyev said, yes. We need to put tariff that will hurt the Americans. It's irresponsible to say that. It's irresponsible to think about that. It's irresponsible to do it because it will hurt our economy more than the US. We're going to be in a recession if we are doing that. The US are 10 times bigger than us. What we must do, yes, and also Polyev said, we will need to help our businesses that will be affected by the tariff, like we did with COVID-19. They created the biggest deficit in the history of our country, giving money to Canadians and telling them, stay at home, don't work, we will give you money. And now we had that huge deficit, and now we are paying the inflation tax. So money is not falling from the sky. We don't have that money, but Polyev and Trudeau are ready to put more programs to help maybe businesses that would be affected by the tariff. I don't want that. I don't want to start a trade war. We won't win a trade war. What we must do is to be sure that we'll have more businesses that will come to Canada and invest and create wealth and jobs. So first, let's have a real free trade across our country. Let's abolish corporate subsidies and have a flat tax on business. Let's abolish the capital gains tax. Do everything to have a strong economy here in Canada and help our businesses to maybe being able to export in other countries than the US. So, but Polyev on that is like Trudeau, Jack Mead, and all these establishment politicians. So I will end with that. But what I'm telling you, what I want you to know, and here in Alberta, I'm so tired, to hear that at the last election and the election in 2019, I'm shaking hands with Albertans and they're saying, oh, Maxime, I love you. I love your platform. You're good. Everything that you're saying, I agree with that. But what? I don't want to split the vote. I don't want to split the vote for you. I don't want you to split the vote also. But you know what? There's a nice news and a good news. You won't be able to split the vote in 2025 because Polyev will win. Look at the survey. Look at the polling. Polyev is in advance in the poll by 40 points. So he will have a majority. And look at our history. You had Chrétien for 9 years. People were fed up. Chrétien, they had a new leader, Paul Martin. Paul Martin was prime minister for a couple of months. And after that, what? We had an election. Harper won. We have Harper for 9 years. People were fed up. And so we had a new leader, Andrew Scheer. But Andrew Scheer didn't win. The Liberal won. Trudeau was prime minister. Now Trudeau was prime minister for 9 years. You are fed up. And I'm fed up also. So they will have a new leader. It would be Carney or Freeland. They will be prime minister for a couple of months. And Polyev will win. That's all that. 9 years Liberals, 9 years Conservatives. We need to break that. But maybe it won't happen at that election. But our party will grow. We will be more influential. So what I'm telling Albertans and Western Canadians, There's no split the vote in 2025. People are voting against the Liberal and they want a new government. So there's no risk to vote for the People's Party. Vote for your values, vote for your conscience, vote for what you believe. We will push Poilievre in the right direction. We will be sure that Poilievre will be honest, and we will be your insurance policy that you'll have a real conservative government in Ottawa. So there's no risk there. And that's why we have great candidates here in Alberta, in Western Canada, in Manitoba. They're ready. They're ready to fight for you. And maybe we'll have our first candidate elected as a People's Party candidate here in Alberta or in Manitoba. We'll see. But you will make history. If we don't have a candidate elected, I'm okay. I'm there for the long run. It will be in 2029. Look in UK, Nigel Farage tried 7 times to be elected, and he was successful last time. The Reform Party and Nigel, they have the same platform. They're a populist party, like Madame in France. Le Pen, Madame Le Pen, merci. Like Madame Le Pen in France. She's a little bit socialist, but anyway, on immigration, we share the same views. So now, the populist movement is growing in Europe and in America and in Canada also. But for Nigel and for us, because of our electoral system, first past the post, there's no proportionality in our system. We had 5% of the vote at the last election, but we don't have 5% of the members of parliament in parliament. That would be great if we can have more proportionality. It's more difficult. But Nigel, at the last general election in UK, he had 15% of the vote, and he was able to elect 6 candidates. That's a nice beginning. So if we double our score from 5 to 10, and here in Alberta from 10 to 20, we may have our first one at this election, and I will work hard for that. But to do that, we need you. I believe that Canadians need our voice and we need their support. So what I'm asking you today and tonight, you're going to go home. You're going to go and have a nice sleep. But before going to bed, please, you can pray if you want, but before going to bed, take a pen and write down the name of 10 persons that you know. 10. And I'm pretty sure that you know more than 10 persons. Are you? Yeah, you know more than 10 persons. Write the name of 10 persons that you know before going to bed. And be sure that before the election, you will have a discussion, a political discussion with each one of them. But please, don't start the discussion by saying, you know what, yesterday I was in Edmonton and I saw Bernier in the PPC. Don't say my name. Don't speak about the People's Party, because half of the population don't know that we exist and the other half don't know our policies. Don't speak about that. We will win because of our ideas. Our ideas are powerful. Speak about the ideas first. What you must do. Look at the news. What you don't like today in the news. You're reading the newspaper, it's about immigration. Have a discussion about the people on that list. And start always by a question. Always a question to open a discussion. What do you think about, the immigration in Canada? I told you that 60% of Canadians are saying enough is enough. A person will say, oh, you know that we have a lot of immigrants and we cannot absorb them, we cannot help them, we need to stop that. And after that, you can say, you know that there's only one party that is speaking about that. Oh, I don't know. Which one? The People's Party. Oh, yeah. Is that the racist party? No. No. Go on their platform. go on their website and read their platform. Like Adrian said, when the, you know, we don't try to appeal to your emotion. We want to appeal to your intelligence. So you need to sit down and 3 minutes read one or platform. When you do that, like Adrian said, 80% of them are coming on our board, on our site. So start the conversation with your questions, start a conversation with what is happening in the news, and like, you know, do sexes. Have a discussion. What do you mean about how many sexes? All right, there's only 2. Do you know that there's only one politician that is saying that? And he said that in 2019. And people were saying that he was anti-trans at that time. That's the People's Party. You know, they want to tell the truth. And, you know, they also want to be sure that no man, biological man, would be able to play in sport with women. So all that. If you do that, you will help us to grow, because we cannot count on the mainstream media, but also, it's sad, but we have independent media, True North, Rebel News. They are pro-polygamous and pro-conservative. I did one interview with True North, that was last week, but that was the first one in 3 years. They don't cover us. Rebel News, Ezra is a good businessman. He knows that a lot of his donors like our platform. So once a year, I will go and have an interview in studio with Ezra for 1 hour about our platform. So the independent media also don't want to cover us. So what we need to do, we need to be active on social media. I need to be active in the real life and meeting people and building the organization. And I'm proud that here in Edmonton, we have that strong organization. We have strong candidates. And our goal is to have a candidate in every riding. Up to now, we have, Adrian told me, about 210 candidates selected and approved. It's going well, but if you know somebody, if you can go on our website and you have the list where we need a candidate. So if you know somebody that can be a candidate, tell that person to write to us at info@peoplespartyofcanada.ca. Our goal is to have the full slate before the end of March, because we may be in election this spring, or it will be in October, the 3rd week of October in 2025. So we are there to fight for you, with you, and the with you is important, like I told you. We're going to do that together. Alone, no, we won't succeed, but together we will. And, you know, I can feel that wind, that revolution coming from the US, here in Canada, and in Europe. But you cannot do a revolution in 1 or 2 or 3 elections. You need to have a vision for the long term. And we are doing that. We are building this party step by step. And so what we said in 2019, was the same thing in 2021, and that would be the same thing in 2025, and that would be the same thing in 2029, until we win the battle of ideas. That's a battle. That's a cultural war. And we need to win that war. For us, for our kids, for our children, for our grandchildren. I'm proud to be Canadians, and I want you also to be proud to be Canadians. And now it's a tough time economically, socially, but we know we have a strong vision, and we know when you fight for what you believe with passion and conviction, you will be successful. But we don't know when. I don't know when. But deeply, I'm doing that because I know that I will succeed, and we will succeed. So I count on you, and I want to thank you very much for giving us your time tonight. And if you want to know more about the People's Party, peoplespartyofcanada.ca, we have 21 policies. Go there and read it. And do that, write your 10 names, and you have a couple of weeks and months to speak with the person that you'll put on your sheet and do what is good for yourself. And if you do that, it will be good for the country. Thank you very much.